Iran, the United States, and Israel are directly involved in a war. Now, the possible outcomes could go in several different directions. Let's try to understand what the outcome of the war could be. Will the United States lose? Will Israel be wiped off the face of the earth? Could a new era begin in the Middle East? What could happen to Iran in the coming months? Compromise talks and a ceasefire. This outcome is the most likely. This outcome could be somewhat like this. Iran's military capabilities would be largely destroyed, but the regime would not be completely destroyed. A new leadership could come to control the IRGCR. 2. Those who will warn, such as limiting nuclear power, reducing missiles, broadcasting bans, may be meant. War by war will go from 3 weeks to weeks. Deep areas will become common, but the country will remain. Economic damage will be done, but not to be seen. Limited war, then a policy solution. After a few weeks of serious counterattacks, the world economy will turn against it. The Strait of Hormuz will be closed. More than 20% of the country's oil. Due to the closure of this supply route, oil and LNG crisis has started to appear in the world market and prices have started to increase. Perhaps if such a situation persists, the prices of daily necessities in Bangladesh and the whole world may skyrocket and the world economy will be in a severe recession. As a result, international pressure will increase. Europe, China, and the United Nations can mediate and convince all parties to stop the war. In this case, even if there is a stop to the war, mutual hostility will remain. As a result, there will not be a permanent peace in the Middle East, but rather the shadow war will continue. 4. All-out regional war. This is the worst possible outcome. Massive airstrikes by the US and Israel could destroy Iran's missiles, drones, navy, and nuclear sites. If Iran feels its existence is threatened, it may try to use its secret nuclear capabilities. Although there are some doubts about Iran's nuclear capabilities. However, Iran's use of nuclear power could pose a risk of nuclear war. This could lead to the start of World War III. Although the risk of World War III is very low. Iran has pursued a nuclear program since at least 1957, with varying degrees of success. During a war with Iraq, Iran decided to develop nuclear weapons to ensure its security in the late 1980s. Consequently, Iran pursued agreements with China and Russia to support the program's research throughout the 1990s. In the summer of 2002, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, an umbrella organization made up of Iranian dissident groups, exposed the existence of 2 Iranian nuclear sites that were hidden from the IAEA. By 2003, diplomats launched an intensive effort to halt Iran's nuclear program. Iran agreed, insisting only on keeping its centrifuges for nuclear energy. However, it did not follow through on its commitment to transparent reporting to the IAEA and continued covert activities, leading to a June 2004 rebuke and a September 2005 finding of non-compliance by the IAEA, paving the way for a future referral to the UN Security Council, UNSC. In 2006, the UNSC adopted Resolution 1696, the first legally binding call for Iran to suspend its uranium enrichment program. Over the next few years, the UNSC adopted a series of resolutions imposing crippling economic sanctions on Iran for its failure to suspend its enrichment-related activities. Between 2011 and 2015, the compounding effects of international sanctions led Iran's economy to contract by 20% and unemployment to rise to 20%. In 2013, Hassan Rouhani, a noted pragmatist, won Iran's presidential election, campaigning on a promise to lift sanctions and restore the economy. Over the next 2 years, the United States convened several rounds of bilateral talks and led the other P5+1 coalition members, China, France, Germany, Russia, and the United Kingdom, in negotiations with Iran's new leadership. These efforts culminated in the adoption of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, in 2015. Once key parties signed the agreement, the UNSC approved UN Resolution 2231, paving the way for sanctions relief. The JCPOA required Iran to reduce its stockpile of enriched uranium by 98% for 15 years, cut the